Good people, great people, guys, people. What it do, what it do, what it do, what it do. If you don't know, it's your boy, Professor Odie, right? Um, Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Antidote. And yeah, today I wanted to do a little something different. As y'all can clearly see, I'm recording from a different angle. I'm trying to test my angles, see how things go, see how things will look from a different perspective. You dig what I'm saying? But I also want to get more comfortable talking directly into the camera, whereas other times I'll be looking off to the side because my monitors are right here. So sometimes I like looking at my own face. You dig what I'm saying? But I'm trying to learn how to once again get more comfortable in the YouTube format, and I'm also trying out the Premiere feature on YouTube this time around. So that's the reason why the video is gonna be a little bit later. You dig what I'm saying? But yeah, today's topic, we're talking about the gender wars, man. And this conversation has always been very interesting to me. The reason being is because I I just don't believe that there's a gender war going on. Right? Or let me be a little bit more specific. I believe that there's a gender war going on, but I believe what's happening in this gender war is that a lot of us are responding to the trauma that we've experienced at the hands of the other gender that we are quote unquote warring against. Right? So what do I mean by this? Now, by this time, y'all gotta excuse me, I'm trying to clear my throat for the longest, G. Stop smoking, you guys, it's not good for you. But for the longest period of time, when I listen to this conversation about the gender wars, when I listen to this conversation about what's going on in the black community, how it is that people are not, you know, being loving on one another or not engaging in what we would perceive to be constructive conversations, we identify it as a gender war. And the reason why we identify it as a gender war is because it feels like, once again, it feels very warlike. It feels as if though there's consistent conflict. It feels as if though there is no peace. And it feels as if though it exists in a base of toxicity and trauma. Well, that's because it does exist in a base of toxicity and trauma, right? A lot of times in these gender wars, as I said previously, what it is that I'm seeing more so is people responding to the trauma and toxicity that they've experienced at the hands of the gender that they are pushing against. So, for example, I firmly believe that a number of black women, when they are having conversations about relationships, dating, aspirational things as it relates to, wanting to be a wife, wanting to be taken care of, they are talking about it from their experience of not being wifed or not being taken care of, right? With black men, it's something very similar. Black men are usually talking about how it is that women don't do, what it is that they don't do, how it is that women, specifically black women, have these larger than life attitudes that nobody wants to deal with. They're going to be married and alone. And a lot of these black men, and I'm not saying this to be minimizing, I'm saying this from my experience as a clinician, as a therapist, a number of these black men have unresolved trauma with their mothers that constitutes to them seeing black women as threatening when these black women are expressing to them what it is that they need, right? Or what it is that's necessary in order for them to feel secure in the relationship. Now, when I sit and when I think about this conversation at length, what I've come to realize is that the trauma that comes out in these conversations, very rarely do we want to be accountable for this trauma, right? Or not necessarily accountable for the trauma, but accountable for doing something with said trauma or resolving the trauma that we are experiencing, right? Very rarely do we want to have the conversation around why I'm responding to this the way that I'm responding to it, right? Or why I'm having this discussion at the emotional intensity that I'm having this discussion. And usually what's happening is that in these types of discussions, we are responding to one another, negating and minimizing each other's trauma, right? So the next time any of this gender war nonsense comes across you all screen, I want you to really pay attention to what's going on in the comments, right? They say that you shouldn't read comments, X, Y, Z, and A, B, and C. But for me, once again, a lot of these things are data. A lot of these things are examples of what it is that a person is thinking or feeling behind the anonymity of a keyboard or the anonymity of social media. And it's interesting because, once again, when I'm reading these conversations, when I'm reading these excerpts, or when I'm watching these clips, men and women tend to invalidate the trauma that they have experienced at the hands of both men and women, right? We as black folks do not recognize that we have been socialized to invalidate each other's trauma, right? What do I mean by that? I'm gonna give y'all an example. So y'all know the meme where it's like, oh, you can't tell black parents that you depressed, because they're gonna be like, yeah, you need to go in there and depress them dishes, right? I've noticed that we have the same response at times to spouses, to partners, to the people who we really say that we love, right? And this denial or this minimization of trauma is what causes defensiveness, right? You cannot be wanting to have a conversation about healing, or you cannot be wanting to have a conversation about growth or development in a relationship and not recognize harm, or not recognize anger, or not recognize the residual effects of what it is that has been done to this person by another person, right? We do not take the time to slow down and really appreciate what it is and what it takes to have a healing conversation, right? Because once again, in the gender wars, I'm recognizing that everybody wants to be heard, right? But very few of us want to listen. Everybody wants to be heard, but very few of us want to listen. And the reason why I believe firmly that happens is because, once again, we, in these spaces of defensiveness, right, in this space of war, we are not looking to reconcile. We are looking to eliminate. We are looking to invalidate. We are looking to minimize, right? We are looking to be right. We are looking to be the victor. We are not looking to empathize. We are not looking to, develop a peace treaty. We're not looking to do any of these things. We're not. We are looking to be the victor in the conversation. That, in and of itself, that premise requires you to invalidate, right? That premise requires you to minimize. That premise requires you to see the other individual as inhuman, or see the other individual as less than human, so that you can very clearly identify them as a threat and then eliminate said threat, right? So, there are two other things that are very interesting about this gender war conversation. And one of them was a quote that I read, and I think I was reading it on the Tribe Chicago. Shout out to Tribe Chicago. And the quote said that it's only a war if both sides are on equal footing. A gender war is not a war because one side has all of the weapons, right? And I assume that they were talking about men. Now, I don't necessarily know how it is that I felt about that quote. And the reason being is because, once again, for me, it intermingles this idea that men and black men have the same amount of privilege and power in order to engage in a so-called war, right? So if we're thinking about black men as one country and white men as another country, white men have all of the access to resources in order to engage in a war that can be that, once again, that disempowering, or on that less of an equal footing. With black men and black women specifically, when we look at our inherent statistics, or when we look at the statistics specifically as it relates to domestic partnerships or intimate partnerships, I always reference the National Coalition of Domestic Violence, or the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. I always reference that I always reference that statistical output. And the reason being is because, once again, for black men and black women, the numbers as it relates to harm, as it relates to harassment, as it relates to stalking, as it relates to all of these things that would cause harm or that would cause the weapons of war, as we will say them, right? We are closer equipped than we would like to admit, right? So a number of women, a number of black women will utilize a hyperbole, right? And when I say a hyperbole, I don't mean, and I'm not minimizing what it is that black women are experiencing at the hands of black men. What I'm saying is that what I've seen a lot of times is that we'll be having a conversation about intimate partner violence, and then we will immediately run to the statistics on femicide, which once again, I am not invalidating, but in a public conversation to attempt to push against that, or the attempt to once again have a rebuttal against that, brings about a response that essentially is saying you don't care about black women being killed. That's not what I'm saying. I don't know about the rest of these motherfuckers, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when we are having this conversation about the harm that black men and black women do to each other, why do we not look at the median, right? Why do we not look at all of the numbers, right? Instead of just the numbers on femicide, right? Because the numbers on femicide are important. They're extremely important because it represents, once again, the reality that men believe that they have the authority to take life from a woman if they are not engaging in patriarchal ways, or if they are not engaging in the femininity that the patriarchy says that women are supposed to be engaging in. I'm not removing that at all. The question that I am asking is, when we, once again, are talking about the median, when we are talking about what is going on in black relationships overall, why are we not talking about the fact that black men experience more psychological harm in relationships than black women? According to, once again, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, right? Why are we not talking about the fact that intimate partner violence, the fact that stalking, the fact that all of these different things between black men and black women, I'm not going to say that they're 50-50. Black women still experience more of it in general, but the percentage points are not more than 7 to 10 percentage points away from one another, right? And 10 is generous. It's more so between 5 and 7 percentage points, right? So when we begin talking about black men's intimate partner trauma, we tend to poo-poo on it, or we tend to minimize it in order to continue to validate the reality that black women experience harm at the hands of black men. I understand that. Black men also experience harm at the hands of black women, right? So when black men attempt to validate this reality, it then becomes, once again, the same way black men tend to minimize and invalidate women when they talk about how it is that they've been catcalled, how it is they've been harassed, how it is that, once again, we don't know who the nice guys are. Black men will have this conversation and they will say, we've been taken advantage of by women. We've been harmed by women. We've been, once again, made victims by women. And women will say, yeah, once in like 4th grade. No. It happens more commonly than you would think. But once again, because we as men are socialized to be hard, because we as men are socialized to be because we as men are socialized to present in a particular way, what comes out is not I've been victimized by women. What comes out is y'all some ungrateful ass bitches, right? What comes out is y'all don't do what it is that y'all are supposed to do, and y'all don't engage the way that y'all are supposed to engage, and y'all woo. Once again, it becomes an attack. It becomes a back and forth instead of a healing conversation. So once again, the gender wars run off of ubiquitous minimalization. So in other words, the gender wars keep happening because, once again, we feel the need to defend the experiences of our gender based upon somebody, usually in the opposite gender, invalidating what I've experienced in my life, or what that person has potentially experienced. Now, once again, I'm not talking about nobody else but black folks. I'm not talking about nobody else but black folks, right? So when we are talking about this whole idea of, oh, black people don't talk about nothing but splitting bills, who gonna do what, X, Y, and Z, and A, B, and C, that's trauma, right? Or that's the result of being in situations where either I came from a low income household that was consistently broken up, or I came from a high income household that aligned extremely with the ideas of a quote unquote nucleic family, and I saw the harm that that did as well. Right? So I'm going to make that a little bit more clear. In a lot of conversations, black men will say the reason why we're engaging in these gender wars, or the reason why these things are happening, is because black women are marrying, or because, we're not, the black family is being broken down. The implication with that statement is that black men have enough emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, and leadership skills in order to lead their family through different trials. In terms of gender dynamics, men are less likely than women to go seek external help. Men are less likely than women to go make sure that they are in good health. Men are less likely than women to seek external counsel, specifically as it relates to issues in their marriage, right? Men will turn around and say women initiate 70% of the divorces. I would assume so. Why? Because 80% of y'all as men believe that, not necessarily as an individual man, right? Once I become married, this woman is just supposed to fall into this role of don't question me, right? Don't ask me where it is that I'm going or what it is that we like. That's a lack of communication, or a reduction in communication, based upon this implication that this woman is just supposed to openly trust you, right? That she's just supposed to follow you wherever it is that you go. Women who have come from backgrounds, or women who have come from nucleic family households where their fathers did not listen to their mothers, or their fathers did not validate the opinions of their mothers told their daughters to not engage with men like their fathers, right? These aunties, these grandmas, y'all are saying, oh, these women are around other women who are teaching them how to not treat a man. That's not what's going on. What's going on is that these other women have been in these nucleic family dynamics. They've been cheated on. They've been beat. They've been stepped out on. Their opinions, their personhood, their autonomy was immediately diminished. And they no longer felt as if though they were a person. That is trauma. But we as men perceive that as a submissive woman. No, it isn't. It is a woman who has stopped fighting but feels trapped because, once again, nucleic family values, right? I'd rather keep my family together than to leave this man, right? So once again, we really have to stop having this conversation about gender wars as if though both sides of this war have not committed some type of atrocity, right? I'm going to give another example specifically for black men. When we talk about single black mothers raising young black boys, once again, we tend to poo-poo on the trauma that black men experience from that dynamic. What we tend to do is we tend to say, well, the man left. We don't ever ask why. He just left, right? Oh, well, a woman would have stayed in the situation, and you see how it is that played out for some of y'all, right? Putting that in the piggy bank. But we don't ask why this black man left. I'm not justifying him leaving. We just don't ask why this man left. We have a presupposition that this woman, this mother, was a caring and nurturing individual, right? We tend to genderize our perception of how it is that black women show up in relationships, right? Or how it is that black women show up as mothers. Black women, if y'all mother traumatized you and you got a brother, what makes you think that that brother was not traumatized, right? Oh, black women tend to coddle their sons. I don't disagree, but I would rebut and say that it's not coddling. It's enmeshment, right? They call it emotional incest, right? This mother is only doing all of these things, doting on this son, doing all of these engagements until that son has a sense of autonomy. Until this son is like, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to engage with you in this way. Like I don't want to consistently have to meet your needs and neglect my own. All of a sudden, this mother is reminded of the abandonment trauma that they experienced at the hands of this man's father. Now she's neglecting him actively, right? Or once again, there are some women who, because they are single mothers, they equip what it is that they believe to be the patriarchy and how it is that we are supposed to rear young black men, and they overcompensate, right? Attempting to be the mother and the father, but your conceptualization of a father or your conceptualization of a patriarchal figure is violent, stern, and non-caring. It's emotional neglect, right? I've had multiple male clients, who have come to me and said, I think the reason why I can't get it right with these women is because of my mother. And I asked them, what do you mean? My mother never told me that she loved me. My mother abandoned me multiple times throughout my life. When I came and attempted to address it with her, she gaslit me, right? And she made it about how it is that she felt about the situation. Oh, I'm a bad mother. I did the best that I could, but it wasn't enough. It was not enough. Oh, well, if your father was here, he wasn't. So once again, you are attempting to deflect from the reality that you caused this child harm. I've also had to do, once again, work on the other side where mothers, once their boy child stops being a boy child and starts reminding them of the men or a man or a man, that mother cannot understand, I don't like this little motherfucker. I don't like him. I don't want to be around him. I don't want him to be around me. And I have to ask them, I'm like, yo, did you resolve the trauma that you had with his father? Right? Is this boy reminding you of the things that you cannot stand about men? Right? Do you feel as if though your child, his male autonomy, is attempting to disrespect your female authority? And because you cannot engage with other men in this way, you are now attempting to engage with this child in this way. I'm the mother, I'm the parent, so you gonna do whatever the fuck I say. Whoa. You don't believe that that's traumatizing? You don't believe that that's setting the same way we say if fathers beat their daughters, they are setting that daughter up for accepting physical abuse from other men? When mothers emotionally abuse or emotionally neglect their sons, they are setting this son up to be emotionally abused or neglected by other women. Why? Because this boy just perceives that this is just how women are. This is just how women operate. This is just what women do, right? So once again, going back into this whole idea of gender wars or what the gender war is about, it is a bunch of conversations that we are having out loud about the trauma that we have experienced, usually at the hands of either our parents or the gender that we have engaged with in relationships. And we are attempting to get on a platform and shout and scream, this is what happened to me, this is what happened to other people, this is what happened to the women that I'm around, therefore they are the villain. They've done the harm, right? It is their fault. So somebody asked me my opinions about the thread on Twitter of when men start hating their girlfriends. And a lot of y'all did not like my opinion. I told y'all wasn't going to like my opinion. Why? Because once again, a number of women were saying that the thread was justifying misogynistic violence, right? I'm not saying that it was not. I'm not saying that. As a behavioral scientist, right? As somebody who has had to learn how to clean data, how to engage in data, what I tend to look for is frequency, duration, and onset, right? How many mentions of actively harming or murdering their girlfriends was in this thread? I did not see a lot of examples of that. I did not, right? I'm not saying that other women have not seen that and highlighted those parts. And I'm not saying that that discussion is not important. What I'm saying is that why did we skip over all of the, in my mind, pretty legitimate reasons as to why you would start disdaining somebody? So, for example, one of the tweets in the stream was, "We're in the midst of a financial crisis, and she's still asking me for money." I feel like that's extremely inconsiderate. I feel like you are only looking at your partner as somebody who is supposed to give you financial support. Then there was another quote that said, "This is the reason why I don't date broke niggas." I get that. I understand that. You don't have to date this broke person. But once again, we cannot pretend as if though women do not go into relationships expecting that when I get into this relationship, this man is going to change, or this man is going to shift, or this man is going to grow for me. It is the same gendered concept. It's the same thing, right? So now you are holding this man to an expectation that you have, right? Or you are holding this man to an expectation that he is finding it. It's not as if though he's not engaging in the effort, right? He's not meeting it as fast as you want him to meet it, right? Or he is not doing this as quickly as you want him to do it, or he's not growing at the pace that you are expecting him to grow, right? So once again, there was this question of why don't they just leave? Ladies, ladies, come on now. Let's keep it a buck. Y'all got a lot of nerve asking that question. A lot of it. Because I could ask y'all the same question. I could ask y'all the same exact question. Right? Oh, we're giving them a chance. We're giving them, they say that we need to give them. Y'all don't believe that men operate in the same space and get harmed? Right? Oh, she alright. She's just having a hard time. She's just, we struggling right now. So this is what's going. Men get harmed in those situations. Right? Men believe that they have to, once again, brace themselves against a woman who's spiraling because it is his job to rewrite that spiral. Right? So in this space of this spiraling, this woman is saying, doing, actively harming this man, and this man is saying nothing, right? Similarly, with women, this man is doing all this, and in your mind, you like, oh, he just, why don't you just leave? But then when you finally get the gumption to leave, you are left with this residual trauma that you utilize in order to justify, once again, your artillery and your armory against men. Men do the same thing. Men do not just come into this space where they're like, fuck these bitches. It's hard for me to believe, right? Something happened to that man. Something happened to him. And then when he verbalizes what happens to him, we tend to poo-poo on it, which then causes him to become defensive, to set up his artillery and go to war. Right? So once again, when we are talking about this gender war, or when we are talking about this idea that there is consistently conflict in the black community, oh, we don't come together. Oh, the black men and black women despise one another. Once again, there's another layer to this. It's the way that we've been socialized, right? I'm going to say this, and y'all not going to like when I say this, but it is what it is. Black men and black women have been socialized to look at each other as undesirable. They have been. They have been socialized to look at each other as undesirable. Right? Now, what I will say is this, right? Because once again, y'all know me, I'm a big statistics person. Black men marry outside of the race at 3 times the rate that black women do. They do. Right? So as much as we talk about black women being unmarried, as much as we make that claim, when they do marry, they are choosing black men. They are. So when we start throwing up this whole, race traitor XYZ, we the biggest perpetrators. We are. Why? So once again, y'all know I got a love-hate relationship with the daily wrap-up crew podcast. I got a love-hate relationship, but once again, I pull a lot of good data from their comments. So one of their video clips was talking about how it is that black men tend to find themselves more attracted to women of other races. And they were discussing why. One of the comments said that, and it was once again, it was a Dominican or like a Puerto Rican woman. And she said it flat out, and I couldn't say nothing but like, damn. Black men look at anything that is other than black women as more desirable than black women. We can get away with shit in relationships with black men that black women can't. Why? Because that black man feels better about himself because he was able to get this designer woman. And I said, shit. Show me the data that says otherwise. Because once again, we as black men have this conceptualization that black women are undesirable. Woo, y'all gonna hate me for saying this. Black men treat black women the same way that white men treat black women. En masse. As a sexual conquest. They good to fuck, but they not good enough to marry. Right? But whole time, whenever a black woman gets married to somebody outside of the race, black men are in a upheaval. Nigga. Bro. Prime example. Serena Williams. Oh my God. Black men were up in arms about Serena Williams marrying a white man. I'm just like, yo, did y'all not spend the last 10 years saying that this woman was masculine, bro? Did y'all not spend the last decade saying how this woman had to be transgender because she got too much muscle tone? Nigga, she's a tennis player. She's the greatest of all time in her sport. Oh, she too masculine. But now she not marrying a black man, and we up in arms. Did we appreciate her when she was in our block? Did we appreciate her when she was on our side? Let's keep it a buck, my boy. Another example, Rihanna, right? Rihanna married ASAP. Once again, niggas was in the upheaval before a different reason, right? Oh, this that feminine shit. Once again, the niggas that Rihanna was with previously, right? Did they treat her with respect, dignity, and uplifting? The answer is no. The answer is no. Right? So how are we as black men gonna complain about black women doing what we do when we don't even appreciate them when they're here? Right? So when we start talking about this gender war, right? Because once again, I'm hopping between both sides because both sides have an armory, both sides have an artillery, right? But specifically with black people, right? But when we start talking about whose artillery is heavier, who have the higher grade weapons, it is easily black men. Easily. Right? The reason why I say that is because once again, we talk about this whole idea of leaders being leaders in the community, being leaders in the family, woo. But then when black women start saying, okay, where is the evidence of this leadership? Where is the evidence of this building? Where is, y'all bitches don't, woo. You getting real defensive, brother. You getting real defensive. Right? Why are you so defensive? Is it because you have not built anything? Is it because what it is that you have built is not this woman's cup of tea? Right? Is it that you don't have anything to show for the life that you've lived up to this point? Why are you getting so defensive? And then we start talking about the economy. We start talking about, you know what I'm saying, white supremacy. And once again, I'm not saying that these things are not viable. I'm not saying that these things are not real. What are we doing about them? Right? What are we as black men doing about them? Right? What happened to our Million Man marches? Right? What happened to our, once again, our figureheads, our spearheaders in the community? What happened to them? We know what happened to them. Who up next? Oh no, I don't want to. Woo woo. No, then we can't call ourselves warriors, then, brother. We cannot. We can't. Right? Because once again, y'all ready to die over a block. Y'all ready to die over, you know what I'm saying? So y'all ready to die over liabilities. But you're not willing to fight for an asset? What, bro? What? So once again, the reason why I say we as black men have the higher grade weapons is because whether or not you want to admit it, we have more access. We have more access, right? And this is what I mean when I say we have more access. As black men, despite the fact that the environment responds to us the way that it does in white spaces, in black spaces, we are more willing to accept defeat than to put up a fight. We do not fight for our own, bro, we don't. We do not fight for our own communities to be resourced in the ways that the communities need to be resourced. We don't. We try to make it only about black men. Oh, well, black women got all these programs. Where the programs for black men at? Dog, did you look for them? Thurgood Marshall called 100 black men. There are so many different organizations that cater to just black men, that provide opportunities for just black men, right? But once again, during the period of time that it was time for you to make this decision as a teenager, did you make the appropriate decision? I'm not trying to hear it, brother. I'm not trying to hear it. I am not. Did we make the appropriate decisions, right? Did we actually go forth and prosper in the way that we want to go forth and prosper? Or did we allow the negative internal narrative of black men ain't shit to make us fall? That we ain't gonna be shit to make us fall. And then these black women remind us of the internal narrative that's going on in our own minds. Brother, that's not their fault. They're not the ones disseminating the resources. They're not the ones that harmed you. And they are not the ones who are blocking you from the access that you could have. Right? But once again, because a number of black men have switched out black pride for money, it does not matter who says what to them. It does not matter who is identifying like, brother, you can have other ways to express your, nah, we got to get to this bread. We got to get to this bread. We got to get to, and do what with it? And do what with it? What are we doing with this money? Right? It is just now getting to the point where the hip hop heads are beginning to pull their money together and start buying up property. Right? T.I. doing some property development in Atlanta. Slim Thug doing property development in Houston. Right? But once again, this is everything that Dr. Claude Anderson, Dr. Umar have all talked about. It's this idea of why as black men who have all of this income, right? The top 10% of entertainers, rappers, woo, we not building these communities? We're not. We are not. We are not going into these courthouses, or we're not hiring black lawyers, black male lawyers or black female lawyers to go do this work. Nah, we gonna go get a Jewish lawyer. Why? Because, once again, that's what's in vogue. Because that's going to get you some clout, because that shit sound cool on a track. Brother, there are multiple HBCUs, with law programs. Why are we not employing these people? Right? There are multiple, there are 107 HBCUs, 107 of them. Why do these entertainers not go and scout in these places? Why do we not have, once again, these trusts, these programs, these cultural, what am I trying to say? These cultural retention spaces, right? What are we actually doing to literally, once again, as black men, we have access to funds that we can disperse in particular ways, and we are not. Right? Whether it be in the United States, whether it be in the islands, on the islands, whether it be, once again, on the continent. Oh, they don't fuck with us, they don't fuck with us, they don't fuck. No, you are focusing on the people who are saying negative things about you as a black American. That's what's happening. I'm just going to say it straight up. A lot of black men, their claim to love, their claim to fame, their claim to personhood is through victimization. It is what it is. Oh, the black man, brother, between the end of the enslavement and now, there have been multiple thriving black communities. Multiple. Right? And of course, once again, when you're in an actual war, there are going to continue to be engagements with the quote unquote enemy or with the ops. So we don't mind sliding on blocks, and we don't mind sliding around and doing whatever it is that we doing to our own people. But as soon as it come down to, once again, these police, right? As soon as it come down to, once again, these lawmakers, we not applying no pressure. None. Where it's at? Where is it? Why do we only apply that pressure when somebody gets killed? Why do we, once again, we as black men, we as black men tend to sabotage our most equipped soldiers because, once again, that classism, black men, somebody on my, I get mentioned in a lot of different people's stories, stuff like that on Instagram. Somebody said, these niggas are the new simps and they hide behind education. What? So you're upset with me because I'm educated? That's crazy, dog. So instead of collabing, instead of hitting the collab and be like, yo, I can teach you about this legal shit. I can teach you about this economic shit. I can teach you about these things. Instead of building community schools and employing these black folks who have gone to get this education at these and bringing them back to these communities, nah, we shun them. Oh, they don't fuck with us. They woo. Nah. No. That's not what's going on. What's going on is that a lot of times we come, educated black folks, I'm going to say it, we come with this chip on our shoulder and we tend to look down at our folks in the hood. Folks in the hood, what'll happen is that you will come in with this chip on your shoulder saying the shit that you learned in the book ain't real. How does that shit gonna help us? Through changing and shifting of policy and law. Oh, the government don't give a fuck about black. That's because we're not making them give a fuck. And when I say make them, what I mean is that black people, both men and women, have the largest influence across the world. The largest influence. But what we do with that influence, a lot of times we squander it, G. We squander it. Hip hop is a $1 billion industry. Billions of dollars. Right? We got these offshoot record companies. We got all these X, Y, Z, and A, B, and Z things. A, B, and C things. And we're not placing them back into the community. So once again, what does this have to do with the gender war? Two things. One, a lot of the things that we were talking about in the gender war literally come from lack of resources. Literally. They come from lack of resources, right? That's one. Two, most of the larger players in the hip hop community are black men. They're black men. One of the most of the richest black people in the world are men. They're men. But instead of us attempting to build our foundation, to build our spaces, to build and to invest back in ourselves, nah, what we do, we try to compete with white men. We try to compete with Asian men. We try to make ourselves seem, quote unquote, better. Okay. Where's the rest of the community? Oh, I made it out, so I'm not going, That's the reason why we continue to have these gender wars. That is the primary reason. There are a number of black men who feel like they are not economically supported. And there are too many other black men who not only have the knowledge, but have the capacity to recirculate this information, and instead we are gatekeeping it. Or we take this information and we do what we know best. We start running scams. We start getting concerned about the money. Like, yo, I get it. I understand it, right? But how is it impacting our community? How are we as black men continuing to perpetuate this gender war by saying, fuck them niggas and fuck them bitches? I don't owe these niggas, I don't owe them bitches shit. You right, you don't. You do not. But when we think about it long term, or when we think about it as it relates to the supplementing of quote unquote the black family, how are we leading the black family as a collective unit, as black men? Where are we leading them if we are the leaders of the community, if we are the builders of the community? Oh, these black women, they don't want to follow us, they don't want to submit to us. There's a reason. There's a reason. Because what we are doing right now as black men, what is there to follow? What is there to follow? Yes, we are getting more degrees. Yes, we are becoming more college educated. Yes, we are making more money. Our mindset is still the mindset of a European. Our mindset is still the mindset of a colonizer. Our mindset is still the mindset of an oppressor and not a liberator. How do I know this? I read the comments. actually listen to the conversations. And where we be fucking up in the gender wars is that we don't take accountability for the damage that we've caused. We don't. We do not. We don't. So going back to, once again, the example of the father leaving and the mother having to be a single mother. We as black men don't, boy, we do not talk about the father that left. We do not talk about the immaturity. We do not talk about the emotional distancing. We do not talk about the emotional damage. We do not talk about the lack of dick discipline. We don't talk about it. What we try to do is we try to justify it. Oh, men are naturally polyamorous. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. I get so tired. I get so tired of black men comparing themselves to animals. That means that you have literally internalized what it is that what a white man has said about you. You don't even define your own masculinity. You don't. You don't. So how can you be the liberator of a race? How can you be the liberator of a community when you have not even liberated yourself from the emotional shackles that hinder you from your own growth? Stop fucking playing with me, boy. Stop it. You are incapable and unfit to lead. Because once again, even in egalitarian societies, even in societies where men and women discuss instead of debate, you still have to earn that leadership. You have to earn it. And leadership is not just making money. Leadership is not just being the biggest, boldest motherfucker on the block. Leadership is also emotional intelligence to know when to go forward and when to pull back. Right? Emotional intelligence is being able to calm yourself down and have a discussion like, yo, I do not enjoy the way that it is that you are engaging with me right now, and we need to figure out a different way to engage. Right? A number of black men will lead themselves into this gender war and get upset when they get blown out of the water because your artillery ain't there. It's not. It isn't. Right? Because once again, we want to be the leaders. We want to be the builders. We'll say men did this and men did that. Nigga, let's be real. We were enslaved to build those things. We were. We didn't even have the power to execute the decision. We were enslaved. And if we were not enslaved, we were debt sharked. Right? We were not given the access and the opportunity. But once again, when we fought for it up to 1965, we know that the CIA planted drugs in the black community, but we still selling them. We know about the conspiracies of how it is that the government usurps black resistance movements, yet we still talk about this shit openly on social media. Amongst black men, there is no discretion, there is no discernment. Very little. Or all of the discretion and the discernment that we have comes from the idea that, once again, oh, women got to submit, or women got to do this in order for me to be a leader. That's literally the same thing as a woman saying, I need the right man to put me in my feminine. You're looking for the right woman to put you in your masculine. And that is where the gender war truly continues to perpetuate. It is at the middle of this idea that black men should do something one way, black women should do something one way, and neither side has stopped to sit down and ask themselves for long enough, where did I get this idea from? Whose war am I fighting? Because once again, all of the tanks, all of the guns, we don't manufacture none of that shit. And I'm not talking about real guns right now. I'm talking about ideological weaponry. I'm talking about the ideas that you use in order to supplement what it is that you do. Y'all continue to perpetuate the gender war both black men and black women through two means. One, refusing to admit that you are speaking from a place of trauma and you are attempting to be heard and not find peace, but to continue to be heard. That's one. And two, we are not admitting that a lot of the bases, a lot of the weaponry, a lot of the artillery was supplied to us by white, Eurocentric family and gender dynamics. The man's supposed to be the provider and the protector, says white people. The woman's supposed to be the nurturer and take care of the children, says white people. I done told y'all before, the gender roles that we operate from come from 15th century Europe. They're literally European. Right? But then we'll turn around and start, oh, well, the matriarchal societies, the reason why they don't exist is because white people came and wiped them out. We'll sit and we'll say, oh, well, men not supposed to, because once again, you are emulating white people. Pre-colonial African societies, pre-colonial black societies, pre-colonial societies of color function well up to the point of colonization because they were egalitarian. That is why they lasted for as long as they lasted. The only reason why white folks or the colonizers came to do what they do is because in Europe, they got tired of being looked at as a backwater ass country. So what did they do? They started building guns. They started seeking revenge against the rest of these countries who were basically saying, y'all ain't shit. Y'all ain't shit. Y'all are not shit. Y'all are fighting a gender war that don't even belong to you. Y'all are fighting a gender war that does not belong to you. So, good people, great people, guys, people. I hope y'all learned a little something. You feel me? I hope y'all got a little nug in. I hope y'all understood what it is that I was talking about, what it is that I was getting to. And I hope that y'all take the time to really sit and ask yourself the next time you think that you finna go to war on behalf of your gender. Why am I fighting? Does this shoe fit me? Did I enlist in this war? Did I enroll in this war? Or is this just the way that I've been socialized to behave in the face of this type of conversation? Good people, great people, guys, people. I appreciate y'all. Peace, love, soul, and butter rolls. I'll see y'all next time.